Hello, my name's Emily. I'm from Yesterdaysstash. Today I have been looking at Tim Holtz. Well, actually, for a few days I've been looking at Tim Holtz, but I have two of his books, A Compendium of Curiosities. I have Volume 1 and Volume 3. I don't have Volume 2. But these books are very interesting to look through. He has a lot of ideas. It's very easy to read. And so I have created two journals from using Tim Holtz materials and using some of the ideas from his book, from these two books. This one is where he says, time tells a story and each day unfolds a new chapter, whatever your way of capturing a moment in time. And then he talks about these elements, these timepieces. And so that's where I came up with the idea to make a journal using timepieces. And so throughout this book is going to be some timepieces. So that's the name of this book. The other thing he says in one of these books is he talks about hemp being a good extra, something extra on a book is to use hemp. So that is, I can't seem to find it right now, but you get the idea that these books have just been very, very interesting to look through. So I decided I was going to take all of my Tim Holtz gatherings that I had been collecting for several years and come up with a couple of journals. And it just so happened, by accident, I ran across this piece of fabric, and it said Memoranda. And then I came home, and I had been collecting some of his paper packs, and I had the paperpak Memoranda. And so I took the fabric and this and have used this for two books that I have put together. So I'm only going to be featuring the Timepieces book in this particular video, and then later on we'll do another video with the other one, which is going to be called Reminiscences. But this fabric is really pretty. I really like the flowers. I like the floral patterns that he has throughout here. But the main piece of it, the main traction in the fabric is this bingo-like card. So that's kind of where I went with this book, Timepieces, which is 45 pages times 2 makes 90, and it's really thick. But I figure that you can actually take some of this what is adding layers. Anyone who the purchaser of this book can take some of these, because the timepieces add a lot of thickness to the book. But the main thing that I was also looking at here in this book was using textures. So I'm taking this book and really looking at different ways. It's 9.5 by 6 1/4. And so the fabric goes on the front, and then I have corrugated cardboard that I have put a glaze on, and then I used jute. And he talks about jute or hemp or burlap being in fact, I think he probably has a collection of burlap tags or something in his ideology, but I already had some, so I didn't use his particular. I didn't have any of that. But anyway, the book has 3 signatures in it and timepieces, and then there's the introduction. This is from a magazine that I found some really interesting sayings in, and this is called Matter of Time. So all of the pages in here are using some sort of texture and are also, I used the pages from the Memoranda, and then I used craft paper, and then I used some this is an actual picture from this guy called Turner's Apprentice. It's a watercolor masterclass. It's by Tony Smibert. Smith, Smibert. Smibert. This book, I found it at the scrap store in the book department for $3. And it just has some of the most interesting drawings, the artwork, the watercolor, the way he has it like Turner's brushwork, and then he talks about different ways to do. Look at that! Ooh. So anyway, I said I've got to use some of the pictures in this book for some of my extra add-on pages in journals, and so that's what I've done here. So in addition to using whatever Tim Holtz things I had in my stash, I also tried to use as many other textures as I could, leather being one of them. And then this is glassine, and this is a fabric trim that I've put on the edge of the page. And then these are some postcards from a company called Oddballs that my thrift store is I don't know, somebody just really got rid of a lot of those types of stationery and cards, and so I've put some stationery and cards in the book. This is some tea bags that a person can use, and also I have been playing around with some embroidery. This is a butterfly that I did on a piece of muslin, and then tried to use just different elements. This is he has several different sticker packs, and then this is one that I used, one of his sticker packs. And also I used a lot of his stencils, that mostly the honeycomb. I really love that pattern, so I've used some of those to add some texture. And also these numbers here came from his salvage stickers book that has all kinds of butterflies and all kinds of letters and numbers and buttons and just all kinds of things. You can see that I've used quite a few of it, but this was called salvage stickers, and I've used that because I already had it. Also, this is some of the stationery that's in here. Really pretty envelope that goes with the stationery. Pretty floral pattern. So if you can use it to write a letter to someone, or thank you note, get well card, thinking about you. Okay, here's another example of where I took a piece of some greenery and sewed it onto a map. And then I actually, to protect the pages, I used transparency film. And this transparency film I picked up extra cheap, $1 for 50 sheets. Most of the sheets are still here. But to use them to protect any other things that I am putting in the book to provide texture. And it really sews, the sewing machine sews on it, just fine. Here's another greeting card or just a note card that you can write a note to someone. This is an interesting, this is one of the instructions that he had in one of his books, was how to use his Grungeboard. And this is what the Grungeboard looks like. And it came in this kind of a package. And it says grunge paper. And he also has a lot of different ways to use it, and also he brings it up in his book. He shows how to do this particular project that I did, which was these grunge flowers. And what he did was he took the grunge paper. I took the grunge paper and did some. I put some dilutions and some glimmer mist on it. It takes it really well, and it doesn't actually seep in, doesn't seep through. And so what I did, and it just feels really good. It's a really good feeling paper, and I'm definitely going to be playing around with these sheets more. But anyway, once I did that, then I took, and this is what he said to do, was you take and you cut them out, punch them out, and then you put one goes this way, and you roll it up on the ends. Sorry, I've got some glue on my hands. In fact, my fingers don't look very good. I apologize for that. Anyway, so you just roll this up, and then this one you roll down, and then you put them together, and it makes this sort of you sort of get the idea from this what it looks like. But it's just it almost feels leathery. It's hard to believe that it's paper. So anyway, this Turner's Apprentice had this really beautiful spray of different purples and blues together, and so I thought that would be a good page to put that on. So this is these pieces of paper are for journaling, and it's what we call resume paper. And resume paper is has a cross weave to it, so that it's a much, even though it's only 24 or maybe 32 pound, it's easy to write on and easy to use. Here's another one of that Turner's Apprentice with the other side of the purple. All the pages came from the book pages. It came from his paper pack. Here's another example of where I took and did use the transparencies as a page, and then I used trim and more of the leather. And then this is actually a glassine bag that I kind of went wild on, and then I used I put a couple of pages of stickers, labels, however, that can go in here. And then this is actually handmade paper that I tore out of a book and glued it onto the craft paper, which is a thicker paper. It's probably maybe 40 pound, and put this on there, and it would make it easier, or easy to write on. So and also what I like about the craft paper is that you can decorate one side and it doesn't affect the other side. So this right here is a collage that I did using papers from magazines or book pages, and collaged them together and put some burlap on it and some little tiny seashells. Now this is an interesting piece of texture. This is actually, I'll move this and show you. This is actually birch bark that I have two birch bark trees in my yard. So I took and peeled them off, and then I washed them actually in soapy water. I actually had to rub some of it because some of it did have pieces of like little places in it and you know, I was wanting to preserve it. Wasn't quite sure how to preserve it, so what I did was I covered it with the transparencies, and I collaged, or you know, kind of put them together and made a sort of a quilt, sort of a pattern, and used different colors or tones of the birch bark, and I put some, but I did use the transparency. And then these are 3 postcards, vintage postcards set in Georgia, the state of Georgia. And right here is some more timepieces. This is actually that paper, and I've talked about that before. This particular piece of paper I found in the thrift store that is used as filters for juice extractors. And so I kind of made them into little tags. I glued them on, coffee stained them, glued them on, took some botanical prints, and then these are 2 timepieces that that are on here as little tag. This is actually fabric from the kit as well, or from the Memoranda pattern. And this is an interesting find. I found about a dozen of these. This thrift store has piles. Well, they're all bagged up, but they're the piles of different kits that people have started and have not finished and have donated. So it can be quilting. In this case, it's embroidery. This person took and put a batting on the back, and then did this embroidery pattern on about 12 or dozen of them, and so I had to get them. I mean, I just couldn't believe. But they put them on kind of it's almost like a green camouflage, which I thought was, maybe that's why she didn't, or he didn't further go, because they decided that they didn't. Anyway, for whatever reason, you can still see some of the threads in between. It's just a really interesting piece of artwork that was in the thrift store. So I put some cards in here for making lists. And then this is just a little bit more just using different stamps, more of that handmade paper. And then this is an example of a kit that he suggested that we do. And it is you start by putting a batting on a piece of cardboard. And so that's what I did, was I took this is actually felting or felt, and I glued it on here. And then he said, and this is just one of his examples in A Compendium of Curiosities, where he said, then put fabric over it and then layer it with different adornments. And so that's what I did. And then I have this says peace. It's kind of a little charm. So he ended up putting some sort of charm on his. And an interesting thing that I have found that I used was his philosophy tags. I might have used them in this book or the other one that I put together, but and then these are some of the floral patterns that go with the Memoranda paper that I have included. This is actually a certificate paper, and it too is a different, thicker, slightly, even though it's thin, it's the way that it's woven. And then I did a coffee stain on it, and it really turned out quite interesting to have to be able to have that interesting coffee pattern on it. This is more of the artwork. And then this is actually from Tim Holtz's collection of, he calls this Field Notes Snippets. And he's got about, well, he doesn't have 134 pieces of tiny little snippets that are, like mushrooms and so forth and so on. So I use that as a to join together at the middle of the string at the middle of the book. This is actually that, what is it called? Wax coated thread that is used in making hand books. This is handmade paper. He likes words. He says, I'm not gonna, he puts in the compendium book that he loves to put words in his books. And so I tried to model some of that. This is his found relatives collection of cards that he has several different card collections. And this one is found relatives. And this is actually a small quote by Fred Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And then this is another timepiece on a tag. And this is a thank you card on handmade paper that can be used, and more of the pattern. This is another glassine bag that I used, and what I put in here is some samples of his botanical not really snippets, these are bigger. These are botanical layers, and he has all kinds of those in there. And another one of my little play at cross-stitching, and some stationery. And then what I used here, and you probably can't see this, but let me see if I can put something white. I don't know if you can see that there is a pattern in there. And that pattern is where I took the transparency paper and I played around with using Jacquard acrylic inks or acrylic paints. And this is what it's called, Lumiere. And it has all these colors. This is called the Exciter Pack. And so I was taking and using some of these on the transparency paper to come up with a pattern. And this was the first pattern I came up with, which is kind of crazy looking. But then as I got a little bit more, less random in them, I was able to come up with some pretty neat looking patterns to include in here. So just another way to add something different. These are some of the tags from his from the Memoranda collection, and more timepieces. This is from his field notes, and this is from that book, the Salvage Collection. Is what that butterfly came from. It's where the butterfly. This is an interesting something. I found this fabric at a used bookstore, at a used auction sort of store, and it was these patterns, these floral patterns that were really big, and they were real far apart, so that you really, this kind of fabric that would be used for like a really long set of draperies or something. But I cut out the flowers because they were just adorable, and put them on some burlap and some of the fabric. So more of the book for journaling. This is actually architecture paper. This was a book of old Victorian buildings and the layouts. And I just thought that was so interesting to see, you know, the dimensions of rooms back in that day. So anyway, I just cut some of those out and put them in here, using some of that, more of that transparency paper, and another one of those pieces of the floral. So it's just a lot of fun. I just so enjoy putting together these journals and coming up with different ideas, and using, in this case and in the other book, Reminisce, both of them I used the same Memoranda packet. So this particular book is called Timepieces, and I will be using a ribbon that I tea stained, and we'll be including that. And it is really thick, but the timepieces make it thick. I think all those extra dimensions in the book make it have a completely fat look to it. But I appreciate your coming along and watching the video with me as I work on this particular book. Timepieces is going to be for sale in my Etsy store, Yesterday's Stash, and most everything in the book is reused from different stores. The paper pack and the fabric I did pay full price for, and probably the different tags. But I found the books used, and all the other the transparency paper and such is used. So again, thanks for coming along. We'll talk again soon.